Dave Lapham joins us right now. David, how are you?
Gentlemen, what's up? How's your day?
You doing well?
No complaints. No complaints. It's an honor to be on the air with you guys.
Hey, David, let's go big picture with the Bengals first and foremost. Marvin Lewis still the coach. Andy Dalton still the quarterback. They still have a very competitive team, have been the last few years. Either get to the playoffs or just miss the playoffs, and then the playoffs begin. And they don't win. What do the Cincinnati Bengals need to do to get over the hump, to get to the next level, to just get one lousy playoff win, David?
You know, it's simple. In Marvin's 6 playoff opportunities, they've lost all 6 of them. They've lost 4 in a row in the first round, which is an NFL record, a dubious one at that. Turnovers, they're minus 12. They've got 14 giveaways and only 2 takeaways in 6 football games. And you're not playing 2 and 14 teams. You're playing the cream of the crop. You're playing a team that could have finished the regular season 14-2. So you have to value the football, and you can't give away possessions and everything that goes along with it. So, you know, that's the biggest key. And then the other thing is, part of the equation is your best players have to play well. And not only Andy Dalton, A.J. Green hasn't shown up in any of the playoff games. A defense that was third in the NFL giving up 196 yards rushing in a playoff game. So, for whatever reason, they just aren't playing to the level that they need to play in that type of football game. And 500-pound gorilla now. I mean, now I think it's gotten to the point where, and it's really been problematic in the second half. You know, they had a 10-7 lead against the Chargers a couple of years ago in the playoffs, and a mistake happened in the second half, and it's like, oh, here we go again mentality. You can almost see the shoulders droop and everything that goes with it, body language-wise, and they're going to have to somehow fight through that. And, you know, if they win a playoff game, I think they might be dangerous and advance even further than that, but they're going to get that first playoff victory, get out of that first round.
Well, Dave, usually, ultimately, the blame falls on the head coach. Marvin Lewis has been there for quite a while, and I'm wondering if he does not win a playoff game this year, is he still going to be there?
That's a great question, because you look at it, Marvin Lewis, 4 straight playoff seasons, 5 out of the last 6. You know, there's only 3 teams in the NFL that can claim 4 straight playoff seasons, and I think it's 5 out of the last 6. So it's not an easy accomplishment, but obviously the fly in the ointment is what we just talked about. And you look at the decade of the 90s, it was pitiful. I mean, Marvin Lewis came and took over a 2-14 team and took them to 8-8 immediately. That's an accomplishment. And then, you know, the last 4 years and 5 out of the last 6 got into the playoffs. So he's done it again and again and again. You know, I mean, he's done it a few seasons in a row. 40 wins in the last 4 years is tied for 5th most in the NFL. So I think Bengals management, who they're notoriously loyal anyway, I think they look at it and say, you know, can we do better? I mean, he's kind of changed the culture. This is a pretty good football team. They did extend him and didn't make this a lame duck year for him. He's got another year after this season. And Mike Brown is not of the ilk to pay guys not to coach. So even if they don't make the playoffs this year, I don't think Marvin Lewis gets let go. Mike Brown's not going to pay Marvin not to coach and pay another guy to coach. That's just not in his DNA.
We're continuing our tour around the AFC North, talking the Cincinnati Bengals today with Dave Lapham, radio commentator for the Bengals and former offensive lineman for the Bengals. And all of our guests are brought to you courtesy of Papa John's. Better ingredients, better pizza, Papa John's.
Dave, you've been around football for a long time, and I'm guessing you could look at a quarterback and say, this is the type of guy that can lead us to a Super Bowl, whether it's by talent or leadership or a great combination of both. Do you look at Andy Dalton that way?
I don't look at Andy Dalton as elite. You know, there's no way that Andy can, I think anybody can honestly look at him and say that's an elite quarterback. Can you win with Andy Dalton? Yeah, you can. But you do have to have a solid football team around him. But into his 5th year now, with 4 straight playoff losses in the first round, even though he has won 40 games in the regular season, he has to start to carry the football team instead of the other way around. You know, all the great ones in the NFL or the quarterbacks that have experienced great success, at some point in time, they have been, you know, I'll put you on my back and I'll carry you for a stretch. Andy hasn't been in that situation or hasn't achieved that type of success. His team has carried him more than he has carried his team. And I think this year, at some point in time, whether it's, you know, against Pittsburgh or Baltimore on the road or out in Denver or over in San Francisco on the road, which are going to be tough. And he's going to have to say, you know what, I'm going to win this football game, guys. Follow me. I'm going to put you on my shoulders, and it's time.
Dave, there are a lot of really good things about the Cincinnati Bengals. Offensive and defensive lines are really good. You got one of the great young wide receivers in the game, and you might have the best tandem of running backs in the game right now. Not a lot of people talk about Jeremy Hill, but he's really good. And then you got the other guy, the change of pace guy, and Giovanni Bernard, who can also catch some passes. Would you consider the Bengals tandem at running back one of the top 2 or 3 in the league?
I really would. I think Giovanni Bernard gives you, I'm not saying he's Darren Sproles or, Reggie Bush, or he gives you that type of dynamic. And, with Andy Dalton, again, Tyler Eifert is going to be a big key to this offense. This kid, if they keep him healthy and he starts winning the middle of the football field, you win the middle of the field, you're going to win the field in the passing game. And you look at Drew Brees. When Drew Brees was at his best, he had Jimmy Graham, and he had Darren Sproles or Reggie Bush out of the backfield to check it down to and control the middle of the field and won a lot of football games. Phillip Rivers, Antonio Gates, and he had Darren Sproles out of the backfield. With the Bengals, Boomer Esiason had Rodney Holman and, James Brooks out of the backfield. With Tyler Eifert and Giovanni Bernard out of the backfield, you can control the middle of the football field in the passing game. It makes it easier on the perimeter. Jeremy Hill's going to get the ball 20, 25 carries a game. They're going to stick it right in 32's belly, and he's a kid. He's a deceptive 230-plus pounds. He's like 234. When he gets his shoulder pass squared up to the line of scrimmage, he's a load, and he's got some make and miss to him. He's got better speed than people think. I'm not saying that he's Bell with the Pittsburgh Steelers, but they obviously he's a heck of a running back in the division, and I think Jeremy Hill though is a pretty special running back. I think he's going to have a big season for the Bengals.
David, last thing, this is a tough schedule for the Bengals. Not only your division with Baltimore and Pittsburgh, I don't count Cleveland, by the way, so don't be offended by that. But the NFC West, which is very tough, and the AFC West, which is very tough. It's not a schedule like last year. It was a fairly easy schedule last year. Not so much this year, is it?
Yeah, I agree. You look at last year, they get decimated by injury at the receiver position, the tight end position, the linebacker position. Not just a couple of injuries, but, decimated, catastrophic. No team had enough depth to withstand the injuries they had. They still cobbled together 10 wins and a tie, though, and I think a lot of it's because of the schedule. Like you mentioned, this year, AFC, NFC West, you get 4 trips to, west of the Mississippi. You're going to Denver, you're going to Arizona, you're going to Oakland, you're going to San Francisco. That's not easy, and I don't think San Francisco is going to be anywhere near the team they were last year. They're a major transition, coach changes, player retirements, changes there, and losses in free agency. I don't think they're anywhere near the type of team they were, but that division still, top to bottom, is pretty strong. You guys know all about the AFC West. That's tough. I think Del Rio's going to do a good job in Oakland as well. I think they're going to be a better football team, so there's no doubt. Based on last year's one-loss percentage, Bengals have the second toughest schedule in the NFL. Pittsburgh's number 1, the Bengals are number 2. Baltimore and Cleveland both fall in the top 8 as well, and it's because, everybody on that division rotation, everybody has to go AFC West and NFC West. So there's no question that it's going to be a major challenge. The last 5 games of the season, they have to go to Cleveland, play Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, and then they go to San Francisco on the 20th. They have Christmas. They go to Denver on the 28th. And then they finish with Baltimore. That's a 5-game grind right there. The last 4 games of that season are just unbelievable. So you're going to have to build a little cushion and hope you can sustain it down the stretch. But that's when injuries start eating teams up, and that's a tough schedule to finish with.
Dave, the 49ers are a piece of cake this year. Come on.
Hey, Dave, I'm going to go off the beaten path with you a little bit. You're a football guy, but you live in Cincinnati, and you've been in that area, obviously, for a long time. And I know that the city of Cincinnati loves Pete Rose. But as a former athlete and a guy who's had to play by the rules for a long time, I'm sure you heard the news that it came out that Pete Rose bet on baseball when he was a player. With that, as a guy who lives in Cincinnati, do you think Pete Rose belongs in the Hall of Fame?
Weren't expecting that one, were you, Dave?
Well, I'll tell you, yeah, it's funny you asked me that because I got to know him pretty well. You know, my rookie year with the Bengals was 74, and that's when the Big Red Machine was at its height. You know, 74, 75, 76, they were just dominant. Got to know Sparky and a lot of those players pretty well. So, I mean, Pete's a good friend. I mean, he's a man's man in every sense of the word. He's funny, you know, and everything that goes along with it. But unfortunately, you know, hey, Pete made some terrible decisions, and Pete was so big in this area at that time. I mean, Pete thought that there were rules for him and then rules for everybody else. And, you know, you can't make that type of decision. I don't know. Betting as a player on a game is, you know, obviously you walk into a locker room and that's the first sign you see. That's the ultimate no-no. Even if he says, you know, he bet on his team to win every game, people are here in Cincinnati obviously are like, oh, well, he bet on his team to win. What's wrong with that? And it's just a dicey proposition. I mean, when you're the beautiful thing about sports is everybody assumes an even playing field, and when you start to mess with that it's not an even playing field under any set of circumstance. I don't care who you are, you're making it a dicey proposition. He hurt himself big time. There's no question based on his merit as a player, you know, his numbers that he belongs in the Hall of Fame. But man, decisions that Pete Rose made obviously are hurting him the rest of his life.
It sounds like you're torn, but I'm going to give you a vote. You're friends with him, but you know what he did was wrong. If I gave you a vote right now, yes or no to the Hall of Fame?
No, I don't vote him in the Hall of Fame if he bet as a player. I just don't do it.
Hey, David, really appreciate your time, and hopefully, well, we might get to spend Christmas with you, huh? If you come out a couple days early before that December 28th game with the Bengals.
Yeah, I'll tell you, we'll have to have a little eggnog or something together. That sounds like a plan, man.
We'd love to see you when you come out, and really appreciate your time. Thanks, Dave.
You guys are the best icons. It's a privilege. It's an honor to be on the air with you guys.
Thanks, David. We'll see you in December.
All right, take care.
Dave Lapham does the color commentary for the Bengals radio games.
I think he thinks I'm Woody. Because when he said, a pleasure to be on with you guys are legends,
icons.
Does he know that a schmuck like me is sitting in Woody's seat?
All live guests, like Dave Lapham, brought to you by Papa John's. They are the official sponsor of the Colorado Rockies Baseball Club. The day after every Rockies win, not that often, you get 50% off your online order at papajohns.com. Use the promo code ROXWIN, ROXWIN.